Students, welcome to another Mr. Ness screencast. Today's aim is America's wars in Iraq, and here are your objectives. Please pause the video, look the objectives over, and get ready to copy some vocab terms and take some notes. The script and slides for this video were made by my former student Daniel Hernandez in 2023. Nice job, Daniel. Thank you. Let's start with Kuwait. Kuwait is a small country in the Middle East which is a major provider of oil to the U.S. Oil is a very important resource used to fuel cars and heat up homes. Saddam Hussein was the dictator of Iraq, and he rose to power in 1979. On the right, there's a picture of him. Saddam set his eyes on Kuwait, seeking to take control of their oil supply. He believed that the massive oil supply would help pay off Iraq's debt that it had accumulated over a previous war with Iran. And in 1990, Hussein sent troops to take over Kuwait. Their army was well equipped due to U.S. support during the war with Iran. However, the U.S. did not stand idle. George H.W. Bush, the president at the time, said that if Hussein were to gain control of the oil supply in Kuwait, he would suffer due to it. And 5 days after Iraq invaded Kuwait, the U.S. started Operation Desert Shield. Operation Desert Shield was meant to protect Saudi Arabia, because if Iraq got their hands on that, then they would have too much control over the nations in the Middle East, and that would be a major problem. The U.S. gave Hussein an ultimatum: either leave Kuwait by January 15, 1991, or go to war. Hussein didn't do anything by then, so the U.S. changed Operation Desert Shield and began Operation Desert Storm. For 6 weeks in Operation Desert Storm, the U.S. bombed Iraq and led with a full-on attack. This was one of the first American wars shown on television. By the end of the war, Iraq agreed to a ceasefire agreement and Kuwait had been liberated. Iraq didn't leave Kuwait untouched, though, because they burned oil wells and caused major environmental damages. Saddam Hussein was allowed to stay in power, but Iraq would later be searched for weapons of mass destruction. And the U.S. said that if Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, they would easily be able to cause harm to the United States and other countries in the Middle East. People thought this was all over, but the flames of war grew with the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Many American officials believed that Al-Qaeda, the organizer of the attack on the Twin Towers, had direct ties to Saddam Hussein. Both of them originated from the Middle East, yet Saddam was in Iraq and Al-Qaeda was in Afghanistan. Later on, President George W. Bush, not H.W. Bush, but his son, stated in an Oval Office address that Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction. However, this statement was based on weak and thin evidence. And that led to the Iraq War. The Iraq War was meant to overthrow Saddam Hussein and find his weapons of mass destruction. And although the invasion successfully overthrew Hussein, it did not find any weapons of mass destruction. The war did lead to the rise of ISIS, a Sunni Arab insurgency. And the war ended with another U.S. victory, but 7,000 American soldiers died and hundreds of thousands of Iraqis died, many of whom were civilians. And not a single WMD was found, nor was there any involvement between Al-Qaeda, the people who committed 9/11, and Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein's 2 sons were killed in gunfire in 2003, and Saddam Hussein was formally executed in 2006. All right, it's time to review the objectives. If you don't know the answer to any of them, just rewind the video and look again. And I'll see you in class. Bye, students.